So I've made my position on the Cambria and PSVR 2 headsets pretty clear, with the PSVR 2 being the headset to pay attention to the most consumer-wise for this year in my opinion. But the Pimax 12k QLED is actually supposed to come out at the end of this year, and this headset's literally insane. I try not to use that word too much, but it literally is, not just because of these specs, but because of what it's promising, and I think that's what this video is for. I'm going to save my biases and thoughts for the end on here, but we need to talk about the Pimax 12k QLED first. It was announced back in October of 2021, at a time where many other companies were also sharing their presentations, like Varjo and things like that, or Varho, I don't know how to pronounce it, and many of these announcements were just lackluster. They were full of things for enterprise only, nothing advantageous to the consumer, and generally speaking, they had mostly CGI presentations. Nothing actually looked like a consumer product. And then the Pimax presentation comes and blows everyone out the water because it shows an actual product. It shows actual consumer things. It shows tech that's really far future thinking, put into a package at a price that, while high, was kind of reasonable. Like, it just was an amazing presentation at the time. They announced they were going to come to CES 2022, and I'm really looking forward to hearing more from them. And of course, they, in Pimax fashion, didn't make it. Now, that is possibly not their fault. COVID is a real thing, but let's put that out there. But we do need to go over the specs of what you can expect from this insane headset that is both tethered and standalone. So let's go over the specs first. I'm going to reserve some thoughts that you need to know about towards the end of this video. Now, the Pimax 12k throws the kitchen sink at VR headsets, with a ship date recently again confirmed as Q4 of this year, 2022. This was recently, within the past couple weeks, said again, so I'm going to hold them to that, at a huge price point, and we'll talk about price more in the future. Now, the Pimax display is massive. It is reported 12K, I'll put that in quotes, at 5760 by 3240 per eye, with refresh rates ranging, depending on use, from the low end 75 Hz all the way to a high end of 200 Hz, way more than even the Valve Index, which is pretty impressive. Now, field of view is also a little all over the area, but it comes in at a massive 240 degrees diagonal, 200 degrees horizontal, and 135 vertical, making this a huge improvement over what is out there currently. But this is where the numbers get a little confusing, because you see this headset, like I mentioned, is tethered to a PC, but also it can do standalone because it does house an internal Snapdragon XR2 processor, but depending on how you use this headset, you're actually going to get different specs. So you can see that here in this graph. So basically, if you're using the Pimax 12k QLED for native PCVR, you have the 12k resolution I brought up earlier, 90 Hz refresh rate on the low end, all the way to likely an experimental 200 Hz. Field of view, what I brought up earlier, 200 horizontal, 135 vertical, 240 diagonal. But if you go down to the standalone version, you're looking at more 8K and 5K resolutions, with a refresh rate on the low end of 75 Hz, high end 120, matching the experimental feature for the Oculus Quest 2. And you notice the field of view also decreases to 200 diagonal, 135 degrees vertical, and 150 horizontal, albeit that is still much higher than the standalone units that we have out right now. With the standalone features, you may be worrying or questioning the battery life, because that's pretty intense. That's a lot of stuff on a small battery. Now, the battery is reportedly on the Pimax 12k QLED. I keep mispronouncing that probably in this video, but it is a 6,000 milliamp hour battery that is almost double. I think the Quest 2 is around 3,200 milliamp hours. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong there, but it's almost double. However, you will notice that these specs, when it is running standalone, it is at a higher quality than the Quest 2. Therefore, it's not just going to be double the Quest 2 battery life. It's likely more than the Quest 2 battery life, but how much more we won't know until we test it. But all the standalone features going to have a huge asterisk on it that I'm going to talk about right after this next section. As for the headset, it will include tracking for head, controllers, your entire face. It's got foveated rendering and everything there, and it even has full body tracking with 11 onboard cameras. Now, Pimax is also coming out with a slew of other modular accessories, one being the Pimax VR Station. That basically seems to be a portable PC. You have routers, they're coming out with everything, really. But there are some things, of course, I have omitted here. Now, the price for this is $2,400, and that sounds massive, and it is massive, and there is some type of trade-in program where you can trade in headsets to get discounts off this. I am very confused on that trade-in program. I need to research it more, so until I know more about it, I don't want to touch base on that. There's something, but I'm not going to talk about that until I know more, basically. That's kind of the specs. Now, I'm also going to throw the spec sheet up. It's probably been in the video before this. I'm going to put it over here as well just for a second so you can see some of the other specs. And I'll try to link some articles down in the video description. But this is where more my opinions come out and some biases possibly here, but I'd like to be upfront. The first thing we need to talk about is the standalone caveat here. So when you make a standalone headset, the operating system and the store are owned by you, and that's no easy feat. In fact, it's no secret that Facebook or Meta has been trying to create their own operating system as well and has scratched those plans because they're probably finding out how difficult that is. So they're going to have to be running their own operating system as well as their own store for standalone. Therefore, if you want to use your, whatever apps are available, I don't know, because it has to be on their store. So in reality, yes, it has a standalone feature, but they are the judge, jury, and executioner of it, no different than Meta is, but with not any of the resources or history. You know what I mean? It just raises a lot of red flags in my head. It's not really standalone if you don't have a store, if you don't have content, and your operating system's just crap. I'm just going to be honest. That is the truth. The headset itself, the controllers look right. If anyone's noticed the controllers, they look very similar. I guess Meta set a standard one way or another because that's the controllers we're getting with the Pimax as well, it looks like. But overall, my biases have to come out here. Pimax has a history of headsets that do push the envelope. Full credit. Like, no one else is trying some of the insane stuff they're trying, and that should always be commended because stagnation is death in a lot of areas, and I appreciate Pimax trying things. However, every headset they've put out so far, whether backers didn't get them easily or at all, screen tearing issues, now they're saying they're working on all these, but there's always been trade-offs to what they've tried to put out there. And when you're trying to now take all of that and bundle it into one ginormous package, when you never finished kind of the smaller packages, it's a lot of concern. Additionally, we are in April right now of this year, and I've only seen one live unit of it on a stream, and it did look different than renders before. Like, it seems like there's a lot of process, and Q4 is coming quickly. So that is the Pimax 12k QLED, what we know so far. It would be technically the first true standalone tethered option as well, so that's interesting. Let me know your thoughts on it down in the comments, but that's going to be it for today. See you next time, Space Cowboys. Peace.